Hi there, welcome to my channel, and welcome to a slight tangent before I actually start the Asylum challenge. And it's a save file that I'm still developing, which is for an apocalypse challenge that I want to try, where I'm basically building up Newcrest to be full of sort of derelict homes and derelict businesses and buildings. So I'm going to have a look into this lot here, which is a cathedral that's going to be, the idea is that once I do the apocalypse challenge, there'll be 8 sims and they will start in this cathedral. Now the reason I'm going in to show you this is because I'm going to preface this whole video by saying I'm not very good at building in the Sims, and the type of building I like to do is the type of building I'm about to show you. And I'm telling you that now because when I tried to build the Asylum for this Asylum challenge, I deviated away a little bit and kind of slid into this style of building that you'll see in this building here. Okay, so here it is here. So the idea is that this would have been a functioning church, but there's been a zombie apocalypse and the church has just become derelict. It's been ransacked by the survivors and it's kind of decayed because a bit of time has passed since the zombie apocalypse. And decayed, run-down, abandoned buildings are the type of buildings that I do best in The Sims. And to be honest, they're the type of buildings that, probably the only type of building in The Sims that I put any effort into. I'm not very good at doing these lovely family homes with lots of clutter and lots of nice furniture and nicely coordinated bits and pieces and towel rails and baby accessories and shampoo bottles and things. I am much better at making things look dingy and dirty. So I'll show you just what the building looks like overall. So it looks like that. It's got this sort of steeple at the front there, and the roof I replaced with that sort of rundown ramshackle roof, which I think is from the Werewolves pack. It's rusted and it's got panels missing or replaced with perspex. And then the windows in the tower there are okay, but the lower ones I used just the hollow frames to make it look like they'd been smashed out. And parts of it is wooden panels and parts of it's brick. The idea is supposed to be that some of it's been knocked back and some of it's been damaged. At the back there is one of those public toilet stalls. That's because there's no actual toilets in the building, and you'll see it everywhere I could. I used things like any item that looks like it's wood with the paint chipped off of it, or bricks with the paint chipped off of it. There's some seed packets there to help the family get started. There's a woodworking bench. This is what they would have to use for going to the toilet and really for their hygiene as well. There's one of those barrels there that's a barbecue pit. Those bits here, these logs, they are the stumpy chairs. That's supposed to make it look like there'd been trees there, but the trees have been cut down and they'll be using them in their woodworking bench there to make furniture for themselves. So in here, the idea is that they've taken away the chairs, it's just the walls of the pews, they've got their sleeping bags. That's an arch from my wedding stories, but it's the one that's kind of grey and it's supposed to look like it was set up for a wedding, but the flowers have died because it's been left abandoned. Now, since I built this particular lot, I have got a lot more packs. So there's a few things that I would add to it now, like spider webs and ivy and various other things on the inside to make it look a little bit more run down. But I can show you another example of another sort of derelict build that I've done just to give you an idea of how I usually make things look. I wanted to show you this lot here that I don't actually have live in any of my save files, but I have built in the past and have it in the gallery. But when I went to place it, my game crashed in a way that I've never seen it crash before, where I got an error message saying it would have to delete everything. It took a really long time to get the game started up again, and when it did start up again, it started as if I'd never played the game before. I had to sign all the EA agreements, I got all the pop-ups saying which packs were installed, the main screen looked blank as if I didn't have any save files, and I honestly thought that I'd lost absolutely everything. Thankfully, I don't seem to have lost anything. Everything seems okay, all my save files are fine, everything's fine. It's just an odd thing that's never happened before. So this time I did it differently. Rather than going from the gallery to the lot, I went to a lot and picked the build out of the gallery and placed it so that I could show it to you. And here we go. So this build is actually Crick Cabana. I went into Crick Cabana and kept everything the same, the whole interior layout the same, the exterior size and everything the same. I just replaced everything with sort of dingy, disgusting versions of everything. And at the back there's a sort of hole in that back wall because I replaced some of the walls with partial height walls, the half height walls that aren't quite full height walls, to make it look like sections of wall had been knocked down or were missing. That's something that I wish they would introduce into this game, is that you could build a half height wall and make it look crumbled and uneven on top. Because you get toppers for your half height wall, I can't remember exactly what they're called at this moment, but you can put something along the top of them. And I wish they had one that made it look like it was broken bricks, because I would use it all the time, constantly. So yeah, again, I've used all the things that, a lot of stuff from the werewolf pack and the vampire pack. I've got the rusty mailbox there, we've got the sign from Outdoor Retreat there, we've got the dead bushes from the vampires pack, and the fencing, the windows and the doors, that will all be from the werewolves. The dead ivy climbing up the outside of the building, I think, is also from the vampires pack. The musty carpet from City Living, the musty kitchen from City Living, that dingy little sink from the Laundry Day pack, and then just the damage on the walls, the mismatched furniture, the mismatched windows. And go down a bit further, I put archways as if the door had been knocked off. Now I do have better archways that I could use now, because again, it's been a while since I've built this. The desk from the werewolf that's made out of an old door, the computer that's a rusty old typewriter, that dingy old couch that's all mismatched, this fireplace which looks kind of basic and like it's just been built, these pots from Jungle Adventure with the ash and the bones in them, the spider webs from the vampires pack. And there is ivy on the interior back wall there, because it's supposed to be that it's come in from the outside because there's part of the wall missing. Bathroom, we've got the broken mirror, the mouldy hose pipe shower, the mould on the wall, dingy wallpaper. And then in the spare bedroom, we've got that bookcase, which I think is also from the werewolves pack again. That looks like it's been half painted, bits of the wall look damaged, and it's the mismatched bed there, the mismatched pillows. So the idea was, with this, I have actually played a full playthrough with this particular house. I replaced I just built this over Crypt Cabana basically in the game that I was playing, and I put in a sim who had sort of paranoid, erratic and clumsy traits, and put her in there, put on the private dwelling so I didn't get any visitors. And the idea was that she had to complete certain tasks, and when she did and had earned certain amounts of money, she could sort of undo some of the dinginess, and the idea was to try and restore the house back to what the original Crypt Cabana looked like. So those are the sorts of ways that I like to play the game, and those are the sorts of builds that I like to do. And when it came to building an asylum, the famous asylums where I come from kinda are 3-4 story buildings with big towers up the front of them, and I'm not good with big buildings, I'm better with small builds. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to build a square, plain looking brick building with a depressing looking door and windows, and I'll put that chain link fence around the outside of it so that I can enclose it all off. I drew a small plan that I would have a small greenhouse, a couple of patches of dirt for growing plants on the outside, and then on the inside, the downstairs, there would be, I had it sort of mapped out in my head which rooms would be downstairs and which rooms would be upstairs. But then when it came to decorating it, I started getting a bit carried away trying to make it look dingy, and I had to stop myself. So you will see that some parts of it end up looking really dingy and other parts of it don't look quite so bad. And it's because I started out okay and then kind of got carried away. Anyway, that said, I'm now going to go back to the original video of me building the asylum for the Asylum challenge. So I've started in a save file where there is nothing built in Newcrest, and I've gone to one of the smallest lots that there is, one of the 20 by 15 lots, and it's not the one nearest the river, it's the one in a little bit, because I wanted to have just a lot of the grass and green land around us. So in order to make the most use of the space, I built the fence first. I had two options. I had this one that I went with, or there was the one with the barbed wire on top. I thought the fence with the barbed wire on top was a little bit harsh for what I was going for, so I just went with this one from Get to Work. And I built it around the biggest area I possibly could, which is obviously just one square in from the edge of the complete perimeter of the site. I then found the matching gate, which is actually just one door, which looks like a sort of lockable security entrance door, which is quite appropriate. Put a mailbox in, didn't put a trash can on the outside there because I'm going to put one of those trash cans that gives you the money back inside the house. And then I put down a couple of dirt patches and then started to try to build a greenhouse, and for some reason I couldn't get the greenhouse windows or any long window to work on this greenhouse. I thought at first it just wasn't working on the sides nearest the fence, but it just wasn't working on any of the sides no matter what I did. So I'm not sure what I did wrong, but I eventually gave up and just went with large-ish windows. and put those around it, so it's not a very good looking greenhouse by the time I'm finished, because there's a lot of wall showing, unfortunately. But for the purposes of what I need it for, it's fine, because really the greenhouse thing, it's kind of a little bit of a joke really in the game, because you can grow a plant indoors in a space where there's no windows or no glass roof and it still counts as being in a greenhouse. The plant just shows as sheltered. So in order to give free access, I used the single plant pots there rather than the 4x4 or the 2x2 planter. The problem with the 2x2 planter is you have to kind of leave space that the sim can walk all the way around it so that they can plant in each of the 4 corners. And I've had this issue before where I've built a greenhouse and stacked them all side by side, and then the sim hasn't been able to access the ones nearer the back. So with that done, I then added a porch onto the front and the second floor. I realised I was going to need a little bit more space in the front there. It'll still be plenty big enough for what I'm planning to do. So the rules of the Asylum challenge normally are that you don't put enough facilities in the house for everybody. I kind of do have enough facilities for everybody, but they're not the best. So my plan was to put in 4 bunk beds for the 8 Sims, and using 4 bunk beds obviously doesn't take up a lot of space. The bunk bed is just a 1x3. It's just 3 tiles basically that it needs for each of the set of bunk beds. So 4 1x3 spaces within the house, that leaves plenty of space for other things. So I didn't really need a huge property. Then I spent a lot of time sort of fussing over which door and windows I wanted to use. I went with this door that I've got here in the end because it's got the bars on it, like the bars on the little window panes there, and I thought that looked the most appropriate. I had a big issue with stairs during this build, because one of the things I don't like about stairs in this game, and I don't know if other people have this issue as well or not, I feel like the stairs the game gives you are outdoor stairs, because they're all made of like stones or tiles or wood, and I don't think any of them look good in the house, because like where I come from, most of the houses would have carpets on their stairs, and there's never an option for a carpeted staircase. But anyway, rant aside, and then I went for these windows here with the bars. I didn't choose the other one because the bars looked like there was 2 windows with bars on them. The other windows, the bars looked like they could be removed, whereas these bars looked like they're part of the body of the window. And then I used just the tool that puts the windows on the whole property for you, and then adjusted them later once I'd decided where all the rooms were going to be within the house. I didn't want the house to have, or the asylum rather, I didn't want the asylum to have a proper roof. So I just did some low wall edging there at the top. And then I went for all the sort of dingy looking wallpapers, which are from the City Living pack there initially, until I decided the layout. Now the layout of the floor, I used that flooring, that tile, that red and black tile there, because I thought it had a bit of a sort of shining vibe to it. And this layout of the floor here, I had sort of mapped out in my mind what this was going to look like, so this was fairly quick and easy to draw in. The idea is going to be that the downstairs, there will be that little 2x2 room is going to be a small toilet and sink. There's going to be a kitchen area, a dining area, and then a small hobbies area. And then upstairs there will be the bedrooms, there'll be some showers and some more toilets, and there'll be some more hobby working areas. There's not any living room areas or TV areas. I did eventually add a sort of recreation area right at the end of the build, but I don't have a TV now. I may change my mind and add a TV because I may need it for skill building, because normally the rules of the Asylum challenge is that the sim has to complete their aspiration, and you play with one sim at a time, and once the sim's completed its aspiration, you put them out the house until you have no sims left. So when I started planning out this challenge, I thought that the rules were that the sims weren't allowed to leave the house or weren't allowed to leave the lot, but apparently they are. It's just the time that they're allowed to leave is restricted, and you can have it more restricted to make the challenge more difficult. But I have planned this entire thing around them never leaving the lot. There's only one of them that will be allowed to leave the lot, and it will only be to go to dig spots to collect crystals and metals. Other than that, the other sims will not be leaving the lot. So everything's kind of been planned around enclosing them completely into this property and not letting them leave. Now this is where I started to get a little bit carried away with my dingy building, adding the cracks onto the tiles, the damage on the wall. This downstairs bathroom is sort of peak the style that I like to build in. Like that flooring that I gave it is the tile flooring from the Werewolves pack, where it looks like there's tiles missing and cracked and broken off the floor, and I love that flooring. I use that a lot in my builds. I didn't so much like the tile wallpaper combination I put up because I thought it looked too clean, but I made it look nice and dirty by adding all of these other little effects. And the mirror again is also from Werewolves. It's the one that's got the cracks and smash marks in it, and it's held together with tape. And I was really loving this. You can see a good part of the video is just me building that bathroom. And then I thought, I really have to stop because I probably spent about an hour on that bathroom realistically. And then I had to stop myself and tell myself that I needed to get the rest of it built because I was just getting carried away. So I used not the worst freezer in the kitchen and not the worst oven. I just used ones that looked like they were sort of slightly industrial. So it had an industrial kitchen vibe to it. But I used those sort of shabby old worktops and that sink from Laundry Day pack again that I like to use because it looks like it used to be part of a kitchen unit, but the kitchen unit has been knocked down and no one's ever bothered replacing it. And I quite like that idea. And then there's just an archway from the kitchen that will lead into a dining area. And I spent a lot of time wondering if I should put a nice dining table in, and then I eventually defaulted to the one from the werewolf pack because consistently stuff from the werewolf pack has that nice sort of shabby vibe that I was going for. The dining tables from the werewolf pack are relatively small though, so I've put 2 together so that there can be 8 seats at them. I don't expect all 8 Sims will sit neat together because there's no living room or real seating areas other than this. I gave them this to give them somewhere to sit. So in terms of a bookcase, I just put that tiny little collection of books and bookends, which is only 10 simoleons. And I believe that's from the Cottage Living expansion pack, and I love that and use that a lot. It's a nice cheap way to get books into the house. And I've also added a chess table, just the cheapest, most basic one, a woodworking bench, and that piano that looks kind of rustic. It's got a bit of graffiti on it. I wanted to get that into there. And I used these doors that are from the Strangerville game pack. And most of the doors in this are from the Strangerville game pack, apart from the bathroom doors, they're from Get Together. And then I just put half walls around the top of the staircase here, and again that sort of worn out carpet from City Living. I then added on some lot traits, so I put on mean vibe, so that everyone can be mean to each other. Penny Pixies to help me with my money, and private dwelling, because I don't want any friends coming in here. And in terms of lot challenges there, I've added cursed. I thought about adding a lot more, like the creepy crawlies and various other things, but I was worried that if I put too many on, they might cause the deaths of the Sims that I wasn't actively playing with. So I just put cursed on to make them a bit more traumatised living in this environment. So with that done, I then started to build what's going to be the upstairs bathroom area. And I did change my mind a few times with how this ended up looking. I started out just having multiple toilets in the room, and then I thought if I do that, it's the same as just having one toilet basically, because there's still going to be the issue of if one Sim's using the toilet and another Sim walks in, they're going to see them and it's going to be an issue. I used those showers that are the stall showers from the Discover University expansion pack because they can have Sims in each of those showers together side by side like that, and they can't see each other because it's treated like a stall. But for the toilets, I had to play about a little bit and build fancy little side walls to try and give enclosed areas so that there could effectively be 3 toilets in this area that I had. So I put in 2 sinks, which maybe isn't required, but it's there anyway. And then initially I put the toilets like that and then thought that that wasn't going to work because having it like that in stalls doesn't really work, because if somebody is on the first toilet, the one nearest the door, and another Sim walks in, they're going to have to pass that Sim to get to the next toilet, and it'll still count as they saw them, and it caused embarrassment. So I then started playing around trying to find clever ways that I could try to have the toilets as secluded as possible. So I made 2 separate stalls, toilet stalls with doors at the end there, so they will be private and that will be okay. And then after a bit of playing around, I made a third one in the back at the middle there with its own door. So there's now 3 totally separate toilets that they can go in and use in that one bathroom area. So those 3 toilets and the toilet downstairs, there's 4 toilets for the whole property for 8 Sims. Having played with 8 Sim households a lot in my legacy playthroughs, I know that 4 toilets still isn't enough for 8 Sims. I know they will still all try to go to the toilet at the same time, and there will still be instances of Sims peeing themselves, especially when I'm not actively controlling them. But the facilities are there and it should be enough for them really. So I then put in the bunk beds. I tried to make them look as dull and dreary as possible, and it is the Mod Pod Sleeper bunk bed, which is the uncomfortable beds. I think they've got an energy of 4, but they're uncomfortable. They don't have any stress relief, and their comfort level is that they are uncomfortable. So I've got a 2 and a 2. My Sims that are planned for this playthrough, there'll be 4 in one room and 4 in the other. One room will have the 4 men in it. I have 4 male Sims planned for this, and 3 female Sims and 1 non-binary Sim. So the female Sims and the non-binary Sim will be in one room, and the 4 male Sims will be in the other room. And the toilets are obviously just a free-for-all for everybody, as are the showers. So once I had done all of that, that left me a bit of space on the top top floor there for some hobby rooms. One of my Sims is going to be doing the expert nectar maker aspiration. They don't have to leave the lot for that. So I started adding in all the sort of hobby-based equipment that the Sims are going to need. I'm going to have somebody do the knitting aspiration, the crystal crafter aspiration, and the master maker aspiration. All of those things, I was just adding in the relevant equipment that they would need to complete their aspirations. Likewise with the greenhouse, I'll have one do the botanist aspiration. I then put in the sprinkler system, the burglar alarm, and the temperature control, just to try and, that was more to try and mitigate deaths than to give the Sims any sort of comfort in the house. I added some exercise equipment. I quite like that robot from Strangerville. I think that's quite a good piece of exercise equipment. After the football, that's probably the next best piece of equipment for getting your Sims in shape. And then I put this battered, kicked out door into this little area in the middle here with a ladder up to the roof. And I decided I would make the roof their kind of a slightly nicer area that they could go to, and from there they can see the outside world, and that's why the door's sort of kicked in, because it's supposed to create the impression that they maybe weren't always allowed to go up there, but they can freely go up there now. So they go up there when they want to relax and get away from being in the asylum, basically. So I then sort of just fussed around and moved everything about. After putting these seats and this table in, I then realised that I was taking a bit of a chance of potential disasters because it's out on the roof, but I decided to put one of the campfires up on the roof so that they could have a campfire up there with their seats. Now obviously they're out of the protection or the coverage of the sprinkler system up there, so I am taking the chance that they could cause a fire that could cause a death, but I'll just take my chances. And there's a telescope there as well for a little bit more of hobby interest things for them to do. So then I just sort of shuffled this last little bit around to get the campfire in, and then that was me pretty much done at that point. I may fuss a little bit more with this build, I may add a little bit more to it over time, but for now I was quite happy with how it looked. So once all that was done, I went in and changed the lot name to Asylum appropriately and saved it to my gallery, just because I'd had those earlier issues with the game crashing. I didn't want to lose it because I did actually spend a few hours getting this built, and I didn't want to lose my work, and I thought at least if I put it to the gallery it's safe. And that also let me see that it was 44,000, so that I would know how much starting funds the asylum patients would need in order to move in. And that's it, that's the build complete. And there it is in the gallery with all its lot traits challenge, and I couldn't believe how many packs, expansion packs, game packs, stuff packs and kits I'd actually used to build it. I didn't realise, not that I wasn't really looking what I was using as I built it, but that's just the way it's turned out. So now that the asylum's built, in the next episode I will be showing you in CAS the 8 Sims as I create them. At the point of editing this, I've only created 2 of the 8 Sims so far, so I'll need to create the rest of those for the next video, show you what they're going to look like, tell you a little bit of their background and their stories that I will be telling through this playthrough, and then the next episode after that will kick off focusing on the first of the 8 Sims and completing their aspiration. And that's everything for this time. Thanks for watching.